I've had conversations with my manager about, you know, the reason I get so emotional is because I cared so. And sorry. I've been thinking about filming this for a while now, and I kept going back and forth just because it's kind of upsetting to talk about. If you haven't figured out already from the title of this video, I'm going to be talking about why I quit my job, what led up to me quitting my job, the not specific events that conspired, but just very brief. I'm not going to be mentioning any names or anything. I will be mentioning the business, but other than that, I will not be mentioning any specific person's name, just out of respect for them. Written down 2 pages worth of sort of a timeline that I'm going to go through, and yeah, I'm just gonna get into it. So finally, you guys are getting the tea of why I quit my job and what I'm doing now. 2017 is when I was hired. The company is Staples. Not too surprising because I'm pretty sure I've mentioned them before. I was hired in 2017 as a cashier. So a lot of it was customer service, and you know, it's a retail job at the end of the day. So at that time I had previous experience as a cashier and really strong customer service skills that I wanted to build on. So also you can't really beat the weekly pay. So I went ahead and signed up with them, and I was talking to them in the interview process because at the time I was going to school at Hudson Valley for my associates, and I was expressing my newfound interest and kind of love for digital media photography. Knowing this, they went ahead, a couple months passed, I'm a cashier, I build up new skills and like learn more about the company and all of that. And they moved me over across the way to their copy and print department. I was a associate, and it took a while for me to kind of learn the ropes. That department was definitely a lot more busy and stressful than a cashier would be, if you can imagine. We handle a lot of big companies around the area for any marketing and production needs, as far as, you know, business cards and flyers and grand opening signs and banners and you name it, we did it. About a year goes by and I learned the ins and outs of the department, how to operate certain machinery, and you know, a lot of it is computer based, so learning all of our programs and stuff for order intake and how to properly communicate with clients and new customers and kind of get them wanting to come back for future needs. So I'm loving it so far. It's crazy, it's kind of all over the place, but I'm enjoying it because the days go by a lot quicker because you're busier and you kind of are building relationships with the staff in the department, and I was enjoying myself. 2018 comes around, and of course there's talks of a new position coming up. So the production lead position was available. I had no managerial experience, I was getting along really well with the ins and outs of the department. I was able to handle being in stressful situations. I was being, commended by customers to my management about my multitasking and how I stay calm in stressful situations. So they knew that I had this kind of strong sense of determination. Of course, it would be more hours. It was a full-time position, a little bit more pay, and a little bit more responsibility to kind of challenge myself. So I took that on, and keep in mind that when I was kind of transferred to this new title in the department, no one really was training me. I wasn't really shadowing anyone. There was a couple training videos that I did in my downtime at work, but I wasn't given this new curriculum of, this is how you do this job, these are your duties, this is how you perform day-to-day tasks. None of that was really given to me, those resources. So I was kind of thrown to the wolves a little bit in that sense. At this point, it's a little bit more stressful than normal. Holiday season has passed, and we get a lot of holiday cards and stuff to do, so we're constantly swamped. Machinery breaks down, so that delays a lot of production. And I was still kind of learning how to fill this new position that I had. But I was really looking forward to kind of proving myself and kind of stepping up to the plate with it. And I end up going on vacation. This is like, I want to say mid 2018. So I've had the position for a good couple months now. Surprised by my mother-in-law, a trip to London. So I went with my then boyfriend at the time. We weren't engaged yet. And we went for a week. It was amazing. I spoke about that in previous videos that I've uploaded, but I'll insert some photos if I can find some from my Facebook. I loved it. It was great. Before I had left, I put a very detailed, like, almost thesis on what projects I was working on in the department, how to go about continuing them while I was away, certain clients that I was working one-on-one with that they were, seeking me out to work with specifically, what they were working on. I made sure that I communicated with everybody in the department. This is what's going on. These are my notes. If you have any questions, of course there's a time difference in London, but don't be afraid to reach out to me. I'll be happy to make sure that, like, while I'm away, everything is still running smoothly. I come back and I go into work, and my manager at the time pulls me into their office immediately when I clock in. I get settled, and then they're like, come in, we want to talk with you. And immediately I had this really weird feeling. Something wasn't right. No one was really acting any different towards me. When I came in, I was really friendly with everyone, and things in the department seemed to be running smoothly. So I go over there to the office, and they're like, you can close the door. So I'm like, oh my God. I sit down, and the first thing they do is they ask about my trip. So that kind of felt like, okay, like maybe I'm hyping this up in my head. And the mood and the tone changes immediately within the room. I am told that while I was away, we, by meaning we, I say like the department that I work in, had lost an important customer, someone that we call a contract customer who spends a certain amount of money throughout the year, which is big for us because the more money we make, the better we are. I was not aware of this at all. So hearing this, a little background, I'm a very emotional person. So my instant reaction to good news, bad news, anything is to get emotional. So I immediately get emotional. Like, it's a slow buildup. I'm not like a blubbering mess. Because I'm panicking, because here I am, new in this department. No one's training me. No one's, checking in with me. I'm learning everything on my own and like trying to make the ship kind of sails smoothly and I find out this news. So they see the distress on my face and they mention maybe this position is a little too much to take on. At the time, I kind of agreed, but at the same time, I was very frustrated because at that point, there wasn't a lot of communication going on between staff and myself, and a lot of the time, projects were being left undone without any notes of communication for the other person and all of that. So I was expressing my frustration with that. You know, give me a week, kind of let me prove myself to you guys that I can handle this position, because I was enjoying the challenge every day. Of course, it was stressful and anxious, you know, anxiety prone, but like that's just the meaning of the department. So a couple months go by and I end up actually just finding a new opportunity somewhere else, and I end up leaving just because I wasn't feeling the connection anymore with my team. And although management was still very vocal about their appreciation towards me and my work ethic and how I am with customers, I just wasn't feeling like I was being valued anymore. I get a job actually at Planet Fitness, and that was actually kind of fun, just because I've never really worked in a gym environment before. My husband's dad passed from cancer, and obviously I was a mess. He was a mess, and I ended up stepping back from that position just because I wasn't focusing on anything. There was a lot going on emotionally, and like it was very hard for me to separate my personal life and like my work life. And we actually end up moving to this apartment, so a lot of things are happening. End up applying again to Staples for the production lead position. I had learned that my old manager was no longer there. There's a new management team, pretty much all new staff, all new faces. All of my old coworkers are no longer there. So I said to myself, I have the experience, although brief within that position, I have kind of a reasoning behind it. So I apply and I go in for the interview. I interviewed twice and they end up giving me the position. I'm loving the new management. I still do. I still think that they're really great people, and the staff was really great to get along with, and I made a lot of really good connections while I was there. Around this time, 2019, I got engaged, and I was in the middle of like figuring out the beginnings of wedding planning and all of that. Holiday season came around, New Year's came around, and that time of year is very stressful. Around this time, I was struggling with wedding planning and all of that, and then let me look at my notes because it's been a minute since I've looked. So, fresh start, and then there was a crazy holiday season. 2020 comes, so this is crazy. It gets crazy. I was planning my wedding, working full time, stressed with staff within the department. People would call out constantly, so I was kind of picking up a lot of weight again, and a lot of the time it was just me in the department for a good remainder of the day, due to call outs and things of that nature. A lot of the time, which I'm very grateful for, customers were very understanding. A lot of the time they would get very frustrated with management because they would see, obviously everyone had their own duties, and I'm not upset with this, but like a lot of the time I understood that, you know, they're running the whole store, not just this department, so they have other responsibilities. So I didn't want to constantly ask for help because I was alone. And although there were times where customers would openly voice their frustration and, feeling for me and concern of my own capability and mental health with, I'd be juggling 4 or 5 customers at a time, and customers would be in line and just in awe, like watching me. When it came up to their turn at the counter, they would first just say, like, I've been watching you, and I would have lost my cool within like the first 5 minutes. And they were kind of in awe with how I kept myself so together and professional and had a smile on my face, even though it was very frustrating. At a certain point, this is where my mental health really took a big blow. Being that we had new staff coming in every so often, I didn't really know what I was walking into when I was going into my shift, and that really triggered my anxiety. My manager at the time, my management team, who's really great, they were noticing this, and we spent a lot more time having one-on-one meetings whenever we could, checking in, making sure I was doing okay, talking about the workload, what they could do to help, and like that's what was different versus the last time. And my wedding planning was getting to be really stressful. COVID was coming around and we were kind of learning about that. So a lot of changes were happening within the day-to-day, and it was an adjustment for everybody, wearing masks at work and all of that. And my husband and I had planned this beautiful, like 50, 60 people ceremony, and we found a venue. And then, a lot of things happened with COVID, and then we had to change our plans again. And then for a third time, we had to change. So like this whole time I'm dealing with all of the stress at my job, trying to maintain like a smile on my face, even though it's super stressful. It's retail. Retail's always stressful. I felt like I needed a chance to breathe. I felt like I was holding my breath. I was on a shift and there was a new person coming through as an associate, and he was brand new, completely brand new. He came over and there was a rush going on. There was a lot of people, a lot of things going on, and the customers, not knowing that he was brand new, was like kind of looking at him like, why aren't you helping her? And he was very vocal in the fact of like explaining like, this is my first day, I don't know anything, like I'm just kind of trying to absorb what's going on. But that next day he came in for a shift. I turned around and he pulled my manager aside and quit, like in front of me. So here I am again. Literally, I feel like Survivor, like I'm the only one on the island holding on, and we just lost another person, like second day in. I'm getting all of my pieces together for my wedding, and I decide to have a conversation with my manager about going part-time. Take a step back mentally. This was a lot of it had to do with my mental health. So they're very understanding. I was gonna take the week off up to my wedding to kind of make sure everything's in order. I had that arranged, and the days leading up to my week off, again, I left a bunch of notes. My manager came up to me and had said, since you're part-time, your pay is going to be a little bit different. And I think I was going to lose like $1 or something. So I'm off for my wedding. I have my wedding. It's amazing. We have a very small ceremony. While I'm on my honeymoon, I decided to check my online statement, and I noticed that the title of my position was no longer production lead. I immediately had this kind of stomach drop feeling, and something again didn't feel right. My husband was like, you know what, like it could just be an error within the program, like he's in IT, so he kind of talked me down a little bit and said, it could just be an error on their part, like don't think too much into it yet until you talk to someone. It was late at night and I messaged my manager. I didn't get a reply until the following morning, which was my birthday, And I was told that since I am part-time, I could no longer keep my title. I was very confused and upset just because I work very hard in that position. Although I kind of push myself to my limits of like my mental health and everything, I still really like busted my ass, and like I've had conversations with my manager about, you know, the reason I get so emotional is because I cared so much about my job. And I was talking back and forth with her and kind of voicing my opinion and letting her know that, you know, I feel like I've worked really hard to be where I was. I wanted my title back, but just a little bit less hours. She said, you know, unfortunately, it's not something that we can kind of meet at an agreement. Either you go back to full-time to have your position, or you're an associate. Although a lot of clients that I had who worked with me specifically, they didn't want to work with anyone else. I was really thinking of them, but at the same time I had to put my own mental health into perspective and kind of put myself first. And I felt very strongly that I was valued more as, you know, the production lead versus an associate, because that's where kind of you start out, you know. I felt like I was valued more than that. And if they weren't able to kind of meet me where, you know, where I felt like I was valued, then I would have to resign. And that was pretty much it. I didn't receive a phone call asking, you know, let's try and work on this or anything. It was just, okay, is this gonna be an immediate thing, or are you gonna do 2 weeks? I just ended up leaving. And that was another thing that I never really did in a job. I've always done my 2 weeks, and it was done very professionally as far as my, you know, departure message to her and the team. And I was obviously very professional about it. So that was kind of my little story timeline of my whole experience of working with Staples. This was just my experience. Everyone's work experience within like the same company can be different. I felt like it was important because now we kind of lead into what am I doing now? Like made a vow to myself to not go back to retail because that's all I've really done. My goal is to find kind of a big girl job of, you know, working in like an entry-level position within my career choice and my field. And I'm doing this channel to kind of keep me busy, and I'm enjoying it a lot. And I'm also selling my art online to kind of make a little bit of money here and there. To say that I regret leaving would be a lie. I'm very proud of how I've been, you know, keeping busy every day, even though a lot of places, like I said, are going into quarantine again. We're not really going out or anything like that. I've been very smart about my finances. So now I'm just, you know, learning more skills every day and trying to build up my resume with like volunteering experience. And, you know, I run a couple small business Instagrams, kind of, I guess, pro bono. I'm not expecting any money from that because one of the businesses is my older sister's and then the other is my best friend's. I definitely feel a lot less clouded and stressed as far as working within a retail corporation. I know this video was a little bit more not as cheery as my other videos, but I am planning on doing more Christmas related content, so if you haven't, be sure to be subscribed. Go ahead and hit that red button down below and turn on all post notifications by clicking that bell. That way you're notified every time that I upload. I promise the other videos that are coming soon are going to be more fun. So thank you guys for watching, and I'll talk to you guys later. Bye everyone.